to my online class. Now, this was 2026 NECO Physics practical on electricity. That is the manipulation. Now, most schools do not have what apparatus to take out this experiment. If you are in that category whereby you don't have apparatus to take this kind of experiment, this video is for you. Please, if you are watching me, subscribe, share, like, and comment, and God bless you. Now let's continue. Now, and at some schools also, they might have the apparatus, but the apparatus might not be working, or it might develop some faults. Now, in order for you not to use or to correct this circuit now, I'm going to manipulate it using the formula. Now, take it now. This NECO, they may ask you to measure the voltage of this battery now. Now, why it cannot be connected? So just take the range, these figures on your table. Now, take the range from some can take to 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, and 2.9. But let me take one to be what? 2.7 volts. Take it now. Some group can take what? 2.6. Why other group will take what? 2.7, and the next one 2.8, 2.9. That's how you take it. Now, what will be the internal resistance R? Internal resistance also, let's take the range from what? From 0.1 to 0.5. So for me now, I'll take range to what? My own internal resistance is what? 0.3 ohms. You can take one to be 0.1, while some group will take down to be 0.2, some group will take down to be 0.3, and some group will take down to be what? 0.4 and 0.5. Now, there are two formulas we're going to use to manipulate this guy. What are the formulas? Let's take number one to be what? My I to be E all over R plus this guy. So let's take the first reading to be this guy. And second reading we are going to use to calculate voltage. Voltage equals what? IR. So these are the two formulas we are going to be using to manipulate. Now, they're going to give us the value of our resistance. For example, like they give us this 2.00, 4.00, 6.00, 8.00, and 10.00. Now let's calculate for our current now. And don't forget, I'm using my voltage. I'm using my E to be what? This guy, 2.0. Now, for the first I now, I'm calculating the first current. First current will be what? Don't forget, I'm using what? I to be what? E all over R plus this. What is my voltage I'm using now? My voltage is what? 2.7 over. My resistance here, I'm using 2 plus my internal resistance is what? I'm using 0.3. So my first current will be what? 2.7 over 2 plus 0.3 will give me what? 2.3. So I now divide it using my calculator. Now that's what? 2.7 divided by 2.3. And that will give me what? That will give me that is 2.7 divided by 2.3. So equal to what? I think this calculator is 1.17. So I'll try to leave it in 2 decimal. 1.17. Please don't forget, get it as 2 decimal. Now inverse. If you want to get I inverse, what does I inverse into? 1 divided by your current. That's 1.17. So I'll also do it now. So 1 divided by 1.17. That will give me what? 0.85. So take it to be 4 decimal. 4 decimal. Let me take it to be 5.5. 3 decimal. Please don't forget. When I take this guy, make sure it's at least 3 decimal. That is 0.855. Now look for voltage now. That will be formula. Voltage. First voltage is what? IR. Now V1 what's my current now? My current is what? 1.17 times what is my resistance I'm using now? I'm using 2. So times this guy, that is 1.17 times 2. And that gives me what? 2.34. So I'll write it here, that is 2.34. Now I also find my V inverse. What is V inverse? That is 1 divided by 2.34. You get me this time? Now in that case, if I find the V inverse, what is V inverse? V inverse means what? 1 divided by 2. That is what? 1 divided by what? 2.34. And that gives me what? It gives me 0.427. Please take it in 3 decimal. Don't forget 3 decimal. That is 0.427. So I'm done with the first one. Now, I'll now move to the second one when the resistance is what? 4. So my current, that is second current, because my voltage is what? 2.7 all over. My resistance here, I'm using what? 4 plus 0.3. My internal resistance is 0.3. So my second current will be what? 4. That is now, I'm going to use what now? That is 2.7 divided by what? 4.3. And that will give me what? 0.28 ampere. So from here now, it gives me what? 0.68 ampere to this mark. So I'll get my I inverse. So that is 1 divided by 0.68. That is my I inverse. So I'll punch it. My calculator now. 1 divided by 0.68. That gives me what? That is in 3 decimal. Don't forget when you're finding inverse, 3 decimal, at least 3 decimal. That is 1.471. 3 decimal, please. So I'll find my voltage now. Voltage got to what now? My V2 got to what? IR. What is my current I'm using now? I'm using what? 0.68 times. What is my R? I'm using what? 4. So it gives me what? It now gives me what? That is 0.68 times 4. That gives me what? 2.72 volts. So I'll write here to what? 2.72. So I want to get my what? V inverse. So that is V inverse means what? 1 divided by 2.72. And that will give me what? I'll punch it now. That is 1 divided by 2.72. And that gives me what? 0.63. I'll put it to this one. 8. So this gives me what? 0.368. So I'm done with this. I'll go for the third one. So which is what? The third current now. And don't forget, the third current here. So that is I3. Because what is my voltage? That is 2.7 over. The third one is what? The third one is 6. That is 6 plus. And my what? My internal resistance is what? 0.3. So my third current will have what? 2.7 over 6.9. 0.3. So I'll punch the calculator now. Now that gives me what? That is 2.7 divided by 6.3. That gives me what? It gives me 0.42. I can say 0.43. Now I will now what? Find the inverse. I inverse. So that is what? 1 over 0.43. And that will be what? That is 1 divided by 0.43. That gives me what? 2.33. Okay, let me say 3 decimal. 2.26. 3 decimal. So my current here gives me what? What is my current now? 0.43. And this one gives me what? 2.326. Now I'll find my voltage. Voltage that is for the total I got what? IR. What is my current? My current is 0.43. And my current is measured in ampere. Times what is my resistance? I'm using what resistance? I'm using 6 times 6 equals what? I will multiply it now. So this gives me what? 0.43 times 6. This gives me 2 points. It gives me what? For this one. Voltage, it gives me what? 2.58. It gives me what? 2.58. From here now, let's calculate now. Voltage here equals what now? That is 0.43 times 6. So this it gives me what? I'll draw it now. I'll now find this 2.58. I'll find the inverse. That is 1 divided by 2.58. So that is 1 divided by what? 2.58. And that is what? 0.388. So this gives me what? 0.388. Now I'm done with that now. I'll go to the fourth one. I'll move to the fourth one. Hello. One now. What is the fourth one? That is fourth current equal to what? That is 2.7 over what is my first resistance? That is 8 plus 0.3. Don't forget my inner resistance 0.3. So my first current equal to what? 2.7 over 8.3. So what will now be the answer now? The answer will now be what now? 2.7 divided by what? 8.3. And that gives me what? That gives me 0.32 or 0.33. So my current here now is what? 0.33. So I'll find my this ampere. I'll find my I inverse equals to what now? 1 over 0.33. And that will give me what? That is 1 divided by 0.33. And that will give me what? 3.030. 3 decimal. So that will give me what? 3 So I'll find my voltage. Now voltage, that is first voltage. That is I, what's my I? 0.33 times 4, that is 8. That will give me what? So it will give me 0.33 times 8. That will give me what? 2.64 volts. So it will give me what? That will give me what? 2.6 volts. So I'll use my V inverse now. That is the inverse of voltage. 1 over 2.64. That will give me what now? That is 1 divided by 2.64. That will give me what? 0.379. So I'll take it to what? 0.37. I'll take it to what? 0.37. So I'll take it to be what? 8. That is 8, 9. So that is 3, 8, 9. That's it. So I'll look for the what? For the last one. So the last one, that is for the fifth one, that was 2.7 over, what is my R? My R equals to what? 10 plus 0.3. So equals to what? 2.7 over 10.3. So that will give me, so I'll find my operator. That is 2.7 divided by 10.3. So that will give me what? 0.26 ampere. So for me, I got to what? 0.26 into decimal. So I'll find my inverse. So it will be 1 over 0.26. So that will give me 1 divided by 0.26. So that gives me 3.84. That is 85. So it gives me what? 3.85. I'll find the inverse of my current. That is 1 over 3.85. Okay, this one is the inverse. This is the inverse of my current. That is the inverse. And let's put it in 3 decimal. This is my inverse. That is 4, 6. So this one will now be what? 4, 6. It must be in 3 decimal. 4, 6. So I'll find my voltage now. Voltage equals to what? I. What is my I? 0.26 times my current. That is 10. Now, if this is the case now, so this will give me, let me say, 2.66 here. 2.66. So in 3, so that will give us this one. So my V now got 2.66. So that now got 2.66. So I'll find the inverse of this guy now. That is 2.6. The inverse. So that is 1 divided by 2.6, and that will give me what? 0.3. When I find it, does it give 0.3? Since this one is still 3, I'll put it as 998. So now, this is how we manipulate. So there's no need for you to, and please take note, whenever you are manipulating it, you must follow the trend, because sometimes we might make mistake. Just know the trend. Now, for the trend for the current, what is happening in current now? Look at it. Is what is decreasing. If you make mistake, you can follow the trend. Second now, even though if I'm going to make mistake, I know that okay, this trend is following. It's following a particular trend. That is what we have to take notes on. For current now, what happens to current is decreasing. That is the trend. Now check voltage. What happens to voltage is what is increasing. Even though if I make a mistake now, I will know that I'm making a mistake, because voltage must be what? It must be what? For me, it's increasing. That is the trend you have to look now. For current is what? Decreasing. While voltage is what? Is increasing. Please, this is what? Manipulation. For example, now in your school, maybe that very day, some school have apparatus. Maybe the apparatus developed for at the end of the day. So instead of you to what? Connect the circuit, you can what? Take the reading using this what? Manipulation method. And at some schools, they might now have the apparatus. So how can you go about this? Just use this what? Manipulation method to what? Take out your reading. Please, what are you going to do for me now? Subscribe to my channel, share, like, and comment, and may God bless you.